Hello and welcome to the final ORCA Pod for Canberra Survivor. I'm so excited because I've got the final two finishes. We've got runner-up, challenge beast, Nick. Then I'm going to get Nick and Ma together for a little interview, and then I'm going to do a deep dive with Ma about the amazing game that she played. Look. Without further ado, I'm going to bring in Nick, and we're going to have a chat to the legend himself. Welcome, Nick.
Let's go. Hey, mate, how you going?
Good. Now, look, I picked you as the winner early on in the original selections, and look, you tried to tell me that maybe you won, but I didn't believe you, to be perfectly honest. So I think that you've done an incredible job, and I think the thing that I've loved most about your game, and we'll get into your game, but the thing I've loved most about your game is it was a little bit Tony-esque, which I think is a huge compliment. For me, that's a huge compliment, right?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah.
And it's not just the way you look; it's not just the head. It's and Tony Cagayan more, but I'm going to stir shit up. I'm in a comfortable spot, but I'm still going to stir shit up to try and spice up my position. Was that your strategy going into the game, or did you just get a bit bored out there and let's have some fun?
No, it was definitely the strategy. Look, and it's really funny you say that because Tony is my favorite Survivor player, and I would have said that before the game. And I think I would have definitely tried to, be a little bit like him. Like you said, I've got the haircut. We're both from Greek backgrounds. He's my spirit animal. But look, yeah, I like players like Tony.
I would have thought it would be an otter.
Exactly, it should be. But no, I love Tony, and I like Chappies from South African Survivor. That's the sort of player that I wanted to try and emulate a bit of. So yeah, no, it's definitely all part of the plan. Yeah.
And which was your favorite of those moves? Of the two that came to note, I think that were most prominent. One was, of course, the rogue vote on Sophie, which has been discussed at length, and then the at merge where you went to Malcolm and said, "Hey, we should jump in with the oranges," and he's like, "Yeah, sounds good." And you run back to the purples and say, "Malcolm wants to go with the oranges." It was full entrapment. Which is your favorite of those two?
Look, I mean, that would have been my favorite. And I think Michael explained in the last episode that was, I was working with Michael on that. He said, throw my name out. I've got an idol. I'm going to play it. So go out and do that. And I was like, I'm going to be able to play both sides there. I'll be able to tell the win news, yeah, I'm working with you. And yeah, I did vote for Michael. But, I'm still actually with Kubang. But no, that didn't pay off, so it's not my favorite move. It's definitely
in the edit, it was wonderful. It came across so well.
Yeah.
What were the odds that you thought that Malcolm would run back to purples and rat you out, or did you think he would keep it a secret?
Oh no, I thought he would keep it a secret. Actually, at that point, he seemed really, really keen to flip, more than me, and he was more on the outs of Kubadang. When I say the outs, I mean he was in, but it was really Soph, Ma, and I at the core, and then him and Michael on the fringe, and Joe sort of doing her own thing a little bit. So yeah, I think he knew that, and he's a very smart player, very capable, and yeah, he wasn't going to just hang around and be picked off. In fifth in that. So, yeah, no, I did fully believe that he was looking to flip there. Yeah.
We have a few comments from the cast. Sophie says, "Can you stop wearing orange?" And Nell is excited that you're Nick of the Winu tribe. And I have just also turned my mind to the buff that you're wearing. Is there a particular message behind this? What's the thinking here?
It's just a glimpse at what could have been. I assume James and I probably would have been swapped if Dan was doing the cast and balancing.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think would have loved to work with you, Mel.
How do you think you would? Well, we're here. How do you think you would have gone in James's place?
It's a bit. Yeah, it's different because I think it's more.
Do you think you'd have more challenges?
I think I was that useful in the pre-merge, honestly.
Yeah.
But like I look, coming into the game, I knew Haley very well and
Yeah.
Anna to an extent, and James. But I think Haley more than anyone. And so I think Dan really knew he had to split us up. So if I was on new, look, it would have been a very different game. I reckon I would have gotten paranoid and targeted Haley, and I don't think that would have gone down well. I think she would have been able to have like Simon and John, support her in that. So I actually don't think it would have gone too well if I was on Win but I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you targeted Haley, from everyone I've spoken to, which is pretty much everyone, that would have gone badly. It went badly for anyone who targeted Haley until they ultimately just gave in, at the final chance they had to. So, and I think she would have, I reckon, well, if you had this relationship before the game, this way you're not put together, but she would have been pretty salty, do you think, if you targeted her? Like, do you think that's a...
Look, I think
friendship
it's
over?
a sort of relationship where, like, we're on very good terms, and it's like, are we going to work together? But like, I don't know if I fully trust that she would be working with me, and she probably would have thought the same thing. It's kind of like one of us is going to have to backstab the other, and I probably would have wanted to get in first. So I was actually really nervous about her making the merge because I really didn't want to play with Haley. So yeah.
You're pleased that she went there.
Yes, yes. I mean, I would love to see her win, but
I think she was a very good player. She was, I think, one of the stars of the star of the pre-merge. I think she won the end of season award for the best player in the pre-merge. I voted for her, certainly. I think she had a huge impact at that part of the game. We'll go into the other move, the move that did work, the rogue vote on Soph. We've talked a bit on this show about what we thought it would be, what we thought your intent was. We were correct about that. It was to make her feel less safe, less secure, move closer to you. That all worked perfectly. Love that. I still don't understand why you confessed it to her at Final 5 or Final 4 or whenever that was.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can explain that. I think I was in a position where my back was up against the wall. As soon as I lose a challenge, I'm screwed. It was plain as day at that point. I think I'd won like 4 in a row or something. Like,
you've been immune at every single tribal, I think, other than the one where James went.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so there was only one more challenge to go, right? Which I think at worst, I'll probably end up in fire, like going to fire there. I think Sophie probably does stick by me, but I needed to really make sure of that. And I think, look, the way that I read Sophie in the game is that she was playing more from like a loyalty, a sort of like emotional sort of perspective. And I think although I wasn't loyal to her, there was something in me that sort of read that if I lay all my cards down on the table here, if I show I'm vulnerable, you can go and screw me over right now if you want. Like my fate is in your hands. That she would respect that and appreciate that level of vulnerability. And I think she did because she
did.
She didn't turn away from me. I think you said in the pod last week, if you were in her seat, you probably would have thought like, screw that guy. Yeah. And I think a lot of people would. But the person that I read Sophie as was someone who was probably going to see that and, I don't know, like resonate or respect that. So I don't know. That's kind of what I was doing there. I knew that, next round is Final 4. I'm going to work hard to save you in this round, Sophie. I think I might have said that, or I don't know if it was aired or not. But I said, look, I'm sticking with you, and you're in a vulnerable position here at Final 5. She was.
You read it?
But she was very vulnerable. She was up for the chop, and the votes showed that. And I was trying to say to her, look, I'm so vulnerable. I'm so on your side. Here we are. Let's do this. Let's go to Final 4. And it worked. Ultimately, it worked.
I telling you the truth about the lies I told you before to win more trust is, a survivor strategy that you see from time to time. I think you see a lot in orgs, and maybe you had that coming out a bit, because you don't really get caught so much in those, because it's all private. But amazing, because it worked. Your read was correct. You had the right read on the person. You'd only spent 2 days with her, and you were comfortable enough. Even though when other people had perhaps crossed her, she was calling them flogs and going at them as hard as possible. And, but she took it in her stride. I think, as you said on the pod last week, I think she was just a bit. I don't think she really understood why you did it and what the strategy was. So, she was like, oh, what doesn't matter. She was like, it doesn't matter. I didn't get voted out then. Who cares? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but she wasn't like, oh, screw that guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the key part. Yeah.
Perfect read.
Yeah,
and then you got to reveal it again at the tribal council, which I think was good. I think we go into the tribal council, and now you thought, according to the edit, you were quite confident you were going to win. So besides the 3 votes that you got, which I think you probably had marked down for yourself, which was James and Joe. Did you mark down Joe? Joe was very upset when she went out. I guess that's why you're thinking there.
I actually didn't know about Joe. I thought Joe was the least likely.
Who did you think? You thought you were going to win. Who did you think you were going to get when you went in?
Okay, so I thought I was going to get James, definitely. I did think I was going to get Mel. I thought I was going to get Malcolm, and we can unpack that in a minute. And I thought I was probably going to get actually Michael.
Michael?
Really? Yeah, I didn't really know that he was as close to Mara as he was. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because so that was never happening. But you did get Joe's, which was, I think, more of a look. In the end of the day, it became clear to her that Mard played more of a schemy game, which I value the schemy game, but for Joe, that's not what she valued, and she felt hurt on the way out, so she was going to vote for you, who played more of the competitive challenge-based game with some sneaky moves as well, but not like the mastermind role, right? So I understand why Joe voted for you. Okay, so one got switched there, but I do feel like Malcolm was probably going in the biggest potential swing vote between the two of you. So you said there's something to unpack there about Malcolm's vote in your mind?
Yeah, and look, I don't know if you've seen the reunion episode that came out, but we kind of
watched a little bit, but I don't like spoiling myself before I do these interviews. So
no, that's fine. Yeah, and for the viewers, we'll take it from scratch. But look, I think that one, Malcolm has said to me that he was coming in completely 50-50. And the answer that I gave him, I can't remember what he said at the time. I think it was like the day after. He said, look, if you'd told me the truth and really like owned up to the strategy of what you're playing in that round where we were, going to like, you're coming to betray me and you're working with Michael, I would have respected that and I would have voted for you. And I said to him, like I was telling him the truth. I think at the time maybe he didn't like hearing that, like, we were sort of, there are a lot other alliances going on or something like that. I'm not sure. But ultimately, he's since said to me, like in the past couple of weeks, he said, look, now watching it back, I realized what you were trying to do with Michael there and trying to convince me to the other side. And I actually have a lot of respect for that. And I think if you had explained that a bit clearer in your answer, I would have appreciated it because I was telling the truth, but I actually don't think I articulated quite what was happening there. Yeah.
And to me, when you said it, you articulated it well, but that's because I've seen it happen on the TV. Yeah, we've talked about it on the pod. So I was well across the move that you were explaining. We loved it when you did it, but I can appreciate that in the short time you have in those tribal councils, it's hard to convey all that information. And there is a lot of information to convey.
Exactly.
So it's a bit of a hard hit there that, you gave the right answer, but you didn't hear it. Did you have any thoughts? Like, did you think you were going to get more than 4 votes or were you basing yourself on 4 votes? thinking?
No, I
I
thought
guess
I'd probably get more than 4. Actually, I honestly didn't. I completely underestimated Ma, if I'm honest. Like I think
okay.
in the game, like you saw, no one was really throwing her name out. No one really
Ever.
had much of an idea. Yeah, well, like this is the thing, and I think she's played like one of the best games I've ever seen. Honestly, like, and I'm not just saying
I
that
agree.
to beat me, but like,
No,
I
I
mean,
agree absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, honestly, to go under the radar for the full game and then win, like, with such an impressive story, I
Yeah.
think it was good. I saw her as a capable player, very
Yeah.
capable, and I did think though that my game was more visible, which I actually
Yeah.
agree it probably was. But like I didn't think the jury would like be looking much further than what was visible, if that makes sense. And I think like what came out is that she was really even though she didn't get me out, it's more the fact that she was pitching and she was fighting and
Yes.
she was like connecting with everyone and really trying to bring everyone along on like a journey. Whereas I was like sort of like maybe a little bit gatekeeping my strong position. And I think that's kind of where Sophie, she played a really strong early game, but she wasn't like scheming against me or Ma.
Yeah, there's no scheming, and she's acknowledged that she didn't really realize she
Yeah,
should be
yeah,
doing
yeah.
that. I think the problem that you had was, you would have done more scheming, but you ended up with your back against the wall so early that you just became the like immunity guy. And when you're just the immunity guy, that's what people look at, right? You're just the guy who's winning all the immunities. Like, and if we were watching Survivor, like Terry Dietz in Survivor, that one, everyone like, if he wins, because he's winning. But the game has moved on so much more than that. But because you were always the target, it made it hard. Like, moves are great, but it's so easy to like just go with the flow and do things when you've got the necklace. It's how you survive without a necklace, and you just didn't get to do that enough, I think, to make your game more impressive than Mars. But I do feel that your game was really impressive from a like challenge beast game, because the challenge beast game can be quite dull in the strategy sense, and that just wasn't what you were doing. You were providing a lot of quality strategy and schemy moves that I think some of them paid off, some of them didn't quite pay off, but I think they were just really, really solid, exciting moves. I think that all the stuff I'm going to jump slightly back here. All the stuff with the Joe vote on you, because the other rogue vote, of course, Joe's vote. How much did that bother you at the time? Because for me, I would tend to go a bit Lex Vanderberg if someone threw a random vote on me, even if it's like 7-1, I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, look, I think it was early in the game, and I was really I was like pretty nervous actually when I started hearing my name was being thrown out. Like
you're really nervous early because you don't want to go early. The idea of going early is yeah.
And so I was like, okay, Joe voted for me. Shit, like what am I going to do? Like, am I going to come out here with like a, like I think if I appeared to be so upset by that and like really like unwilling to like forgive and forget, that's just going to like paint such a black cloud over the whole tribe. Like really,
you're 100%. You would have, that would have been a tanking move. But I want to know how upset you were, and did you keep that down, or you just I'm actually chill about this?
No, I was a bit annoyed, to be honest. I was annoyed, but I think I was also like, look, she's still in the game. I've still got to work with her. So let's do something here. But I think from then on, I was never like really like trusting Joe. I was always kind of like, oh, she's someone else's number. I don't even know who's like, but she's not really with me. And so that's when, like, in the merge, I started hearing of this women's alliance. I was like, oh, God, Joe would be all over that. She'd be all over it. I was like, okay, fine. Joe needs to go. And so, like, what I think was really dangerous about Joe, I started telling people, oh, she's never seen anything before. She's going to make it's going to be an impressive story. But reality was, I think...
Did you believe that? Because I didn't believe it.
Look, I just hosted a season of Perjury, an online game, and the guy who won it, he'd never seen Survivor before.
Okay, so
But
you
he
were sort of
was,
thinking about that.
yeah, I was kind of thinking about that, and he had like really grasped the strategy side of things and learnt a lot. And I love Jo, but like I don't think she was,
No, she
that
wasn't doing that.
a player.
She was playing a loyalty game, and that's what she was very focused
That's
on.
right.
That was her whole thing.
That's right. But her loyalty, I didn't see it as being with me. And I could see that was the game she was playing. Yes, loyalty and all that sort of thing, but it wasn't with me. And
Which is
so I was
why you got to vote though, because
right,
the other people who voted her out, she was loyal to. Whereas for you, you weren't loyal, so that's why you get a vote because you didn't betray.
Exactly right. So it's kind of funny in the end, but yeah, like at the end of the day, I just had to. I saw her as someone who could be swept up as a number for an alliance, and she wasn't in mine, so she was in someone else's. So I was like, we need to this is dangerous. She needed to go.
JP's view of the situation was Jo was coming out with the strats from early season. She's clearly a seasoned veteran. She's taken us all for a ride.
Mate, I'm waiting for her to come out as like the biggest super fan ever. Like I would not be surprised. She's amazing.
JP also thought you played phenomenally.
I think you did.
And Mel says you should calm down. You got one vote. Mel was, of course, very proud that she had. Mel has more votes than any person in any LRG ever or something. She's calculated a record that is unlikely to be beaten. I think it's even with her little dodgy votes. She was hitting the idol. She's still way up there. But I think you would now have the record for immunity wins. I've watched most Australian LRGs, and I don't believe that anyone has done as well as you have done. So you really are the challenge beast. And I think you made a great character on the season. I think watching you was really enjoyable. It's the sort of player that I enjoy. Like, I love Tony. I want to see Tony. I want to see people doing that. And you want to see people wanting to go out in the LRGs and being big. So thank you so much for what you brought to this season. I think you are a really well-deserving runner-up, but I'm glad that you didn't win because that would be a game.
No, look, honestly, I am too. Yeah, I know that sounds weird, but like I do think Mark played it.
Well, you may not have won the game, but you've won in life because you won the girl. Can we bring Ma in now?
Come on in. Come on in over here. Actually, we need a charger.
As we revealed on the ORCA, as we revealed on the ORCA Pod a couple of weeks back, I knew going in, of course, as did Annabelle and Max, that Nick and Ma are now a couple, and that Nick actually moved from Sydney after this to Melbourne to be with Ma. So a huge amount of obviously connection got formed at this game. And I knew all of this, but we didn't want to reveal it to everyone. And Annabelle was like, oh, everyone knows it. And I'm like, there are people that don't know it. And they were surprised. So what I want to know and how much fun was it, and I was messaging Mara a little bit about this as we went, some of her confessionals about Nick, and we know she can be cutting in the confessionals, were fantastic. Because the thing is, of course, now, Ma, did you warn Nick you were going to be saying some things about him that he might not enjoy?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And even worse than that, so my family, they knew the result before the season aired. They don't really care so much about Survivor, but they care about me. So they, I think it was more like I had to warn him about the stuff I had told my family about Nick. About the game. I think that's a part
well,
nothing about the game.
My favorites were, because the thing is, you remember you said some things, but you don't ever remember the specific things. These things when you actually see the footage, like with just Melbourne coming out the first episode the other day, you get confessionals that you made. You don't remember what you said. Like you remember the gist of what you were doing, but the one about the snoring I thought was fantastic. And has that improved? Is that a better situation now?
Can't comment. I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to complain about snoring anymore.
And then
It's fine. It's fine.
and there's a couple in the end that like when sorry, I've just got to say this. I've been sending Ma messages all season when she gives like I'll be watching Canberra Survivor at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'll be sending her like just random like messages about great confessionals that she does. And where is it? Here we go. This is what I was saying to her as I watched the finale. Lol, Nick thinks he can beat you. A gorgeous man and so lovely, but so wrong.
Well, I at the time it didn't feel like he was gonna beat me. Honestly, like I went into the tribal councils being like, I'm gonna have to really, really, really like hustle here because in my mind, Nick was kind of unbeatable at the end.
Well, I said to you, I said, is there anything that guy can't do? It's impressive. He won't die.
He won't die.
Must be so fun watching together. And then your quote was, now Nick has immunity. It's time to vote out someone I really care about.
See how it is. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the coup de grace going into tribal. I think Nick is really underestimating how much hell I'm about to give you.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, honestly, I did. That's so true. Yeah.
And I still give it to him. So funny, like looking back, I do wonder sometimes, like, why did we like? I wonder sometimes, like, how come Nick never like came after me? Like, I was at this in the premieres, a lot of my interviews, and they were not in the episode for obvious reasons, but I kept going on about how we were in this Cold War, and we were all like, we were ready to, I had just seen like oh my god, I'm blanking on the people from
what, Australian Survivor?
No, from American Survivor. Anyway.
Ricardo and Shan.
I had just seen
Ricardo and Shan.
Yeah, and I was
thinking I can see that.
Yeah, so in my mind we're playing that, but
nope.
But the thing
is,
way. We did. I think there's like a little Easter egg maybe for the viewers, was that we actually bonded really closely on the first day because as we were walking around looking for the rocks, I actually found a little scroll.
Oh yeah.
That Nick was right in front of me, and I grabbed it, and honestly, I was so mad at myself, but I was like, oh my god, I found something, and Nick was the only one who knew about it, and we were like celebrating together that I had just found an idol, all this stuff, and an hour later, production pulls us aside and tells us that the lovely JP, who we all know and love, that was the legacy advantage that we were meant. It was meant to be. He had just like it fallen off Josh's pocket, and I had to give it back. So honestly, at the time when Michael got the advantage, I already knew what it was. Like he shared it with me anyway, but honestly, that I think maybe we owe Josh this. That I think he brought us together in that way.
Basket of fruit for Josh.
Yeah,
there you go. He's actually Cupid.
I do see that as like a little bit of luck.
Yeah,
that went my way because I had very early on established trust with Nick.
Yeah.
I think it is so interesting though, hearing your perspective of like, this Cold War, we're gonna have to go for each other, because I did not see you like that at all. Like not at all. I saw you, you and Sophie as like equal, hanging out.
Look, you know Ma better than me, both of you, obviously. But Ma always struck me as someone who doesn't necessarily choose the alpha male as like a number one ally. Like that's just not really his style.
And the thing is, I did learn, the one thing I learned from Melbourne, with no spoilers, is that I went into Melbourne being a big fan of Survivor and thinking that everyone was gonna be able to see through me and see me as a threat. So I was very conscious of like being really shy about strategy and really like quiet about strategy. And in Canberra and in Melbourne taught me that not only am I not that kind of character, like I don't think people meet me and they go like, she's like a game bot. Like someone like Nick is, automatically threatening because of, he's a big guy and he's charismatic. And I think I realized that I think I'm not as big as like top shit as I think I am. So I can really like, I have more room to play with here.
Yeah.
Like I can't really hide in the shadows. And yeah, so that's why I think I look back and I'm thinking like Nick sees me as a threat, like, and then I'm like, of course he didn't, because that's not my archetype, and that's the hardest thing. And that's why people who say I'm gonna play like this player, it's like unless it's like your exact archetype. Like I don't think we could ever play the game I played because he stands out so much. Yeah.
I don't think I could, and that's kind of why I think like I was looking at coming into the game. What sort of strategy am I going to have? What sort of US Survivor players or any Survivor players am I going to like try to emulate? Like I can't look and like I love Sari, but I'm not going to play a Sari game, or a Sandra game or anything like that. I can't especially being out there like with the short rounds that we have in Canberra. People see me tall, somewhat young, like they're just sort of like, this guy's going to be good at challenges, whether I am or not. Honestly.
No, they make an assumption. And the pressure comes on. Pressure comes on and you become yourself. Like if you watch the first episode, I'm telling everyone, and I'll reveal this when I do my interviews and stuff, I'm telling everyone I'm this musician because the plan was to be like a really laid back, chill dude. But as soon as
but you just become yourself, right?
You just become yourself. So I'm more like a Boston Rob there, just trying to boss everyone around, which like, only ever worked for him fucking once, and every other time it was a failure. And that's because he's a character a player I've really liked, and I just became this bossy sort of like leader. Because that's also what I do in real life, and it just sort of fell apart. Like because I have a team and I manage people, and I have to give people directions all the time, so it's really hard to break out of that.
Even if it's just a 2-day game, like you can't be anyone else but yourself.
No.
And it's really transparent. Like anyone, even someone like Banfield, who honestly, like at the start, he actually did get me because he had like the shirt and he was like, I'm a dad, and like I'm super young, but I'm a dad. And honestly, for me, it was like immediately I thought, oh my God, this is like Brady, who I've already played with. He reminded me of it, because you honestly, you do like relate people like, okay, who's the Annabelle, who's the Rosie? And for me, like Banfield, I really was the first person that I was like, I really want to work with that guy, because I thought and to be honest, it wasn't, I didn't care about the name thing, but I didn't know.
Namegate carried the season through the Fury match.
I didn't know James, but I knew of James. I knew he was one of those like online people.
Yeah.
Little did I know that
online people.
Did I know that they were everywhere. But as soon as I realized that he recognized Banfield because he said his name, I was like, oh my God, Banfield is another one of these online people who's gonna just make a crazy move for the sake of it. And that's when I decided to like stop fighting so much for Banfield, for example. But I think
we're already getting to the deep dive with you, which I want to do. So I'm going to move Nick out. Bye, Nick. But I want to say how like I got the LRG couple was such a great like fun thing, and I think it's really nice. And it's like it's got like real Boston Rob Amber vibes with one of you winning 4-3 like at the end. I didn't watch the reunion. I don't know if anyone proposed or not. Maybe I should check that out. But look, I love that story. I love you guys as a couple. I think this is just a really cool like tip off to the end that you guys were there together. Maybe in 10 years time you'll be married and you have kids and you'll be able to show your kids how you met on Canberra Survivor. I think that's pretty cool.
A winner's a war, right? Like
sure.
All right, thank you so much.
I just want to say, it's really cool, that we met. But I do want to clarify for anyone who's confused, we were not a couple when we were playing, because some people were thinking we came in and we were playing. Because some people, this is aunties and other people who think we met on the show. We were not aware of each other.
Yeah. And then you met. Like that has happened for many, many survivors. Parvati and her husband, they went on the same show, but they were on different seasons.
That ended really well, as we all know.
Rob and Amber are still together. Let's go with that.
Yeah,
let's go with that.
Yeah, I think I'm more of a Sandra than a Amber. I'd say Nick's the Tony, he's like the Greek crazy guy, and I'm the sassy Latina.
I think you're the Boston Robber this season, and we'll get into that in a moment. Like you, even though Amber won, you're more of a Boston Rob. All right, Nick, off you go.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Go.
So, what a victory for you. I was so impressed from the first get-go. I was messaging about it. I'm like, who is this person? This person is so different to the one I played with in Melbourne. And you talked about just a bit before that maybe Melbourne, like a lot of us were, you were trying to hold things back, and you obviously learned from that lesson.
Yeah, definitely. Like the number one advice I would give to someone wanting to play one of these really quick games is that don't think it's like the normal game where you can strategize from the start. I mean, again, it depends what character you're. If you're like a James or like a Nick, it's a bit trickier because you really stand out. But I just learned that everyone is in Melbourne. I was so scared, and I was like, and I remember, I think it was the first episode's out. I think, Chris, you were the first person to approach me to even suggest an alliance. And like, when you come in, you're just dying for someone to say that to you.
Yeah.
So I thought in Canberra, I was like, these people don't know that, but I do. So I was like, if I'm the first person to offer an alliance to people, hopefully that they, it sticks. And I'm the first.
So you're remembering how that felt when I did that to you, and you're like,
Wow.
oh, I felt good about that. Yeah, but I was also ordering every round, so you've got a nicer demeanor. So I think it probably worked better with you. I also noted, and I've said this on the ORCA Pod a number of times, that I thought the one failing for you on Melbourne, doesn't matter where you finished, the thing, whatever, people still have faults, even the winners, was that it was hard to know whether you were telling me the truth or not about whether you were with me, whether you were with someone else. I felt there was a lot of scenes in this where you made particular efforts to make sure your allies knew you were really with them. Was that conscious, or was that just how you just naturally played this time?
I think it was more the fact that I wasn't so scared anymore. It was more like I learned more that you can't discount anyone, and you can't just be, sitting in the middle ready. Like, if you want to make a move, you need to be thinking like, who am I going to make this move with? If it's with the minority, you need to be friendly with them. So for me, it was more like I wanted to have relationships with everyone in the tribe, and then kind of I was ranking them like in sort of like an onion type graph, where it was like, who are the people closest to me, and who, it doesn't matter. I understood how the alliances work with me and Sophie and Nick, and then Banfield and Michael, and like it was that. But then this was my own little diagram where I was like, okay, Michael and Nick and Sophie are like my closest, and then it goes like Banfield maybe, and then Joe and Malcolm and Gracie somewhere in there. So for me, sometimes it came down to like, okay, it's not like who do I want to target, it's who do I really want to keep safe. And that was always like I don't know. For me in Melbourne, I did think like I learned that you have to verbalize alliances. I was just so scared of Melbourne.
No, I know. I think we all know that if you play a second time, you're going to be a bit more fancy free and natural. The pre-merge was pretty dominant. You had that onion alliance, as you just mentioned, and there was, of course, the Cold War you were having with Malcolm that he knew nothing about. He couldn't even remember your name, but you thought that he was out to get you. What were you thinking there? Why did you think that Malcolm was not wanting to be in the 4 that he'd said that you guys were supposed to be in a 4, I believe, with you and Sophie and him and Joe was the 4 that was?
Yeah, I think it was a situation where Malcolm was the last person I got a hold of, and he said that he actually went looking for rocks, like Grace did, but he did come back. And it was a matter of like, yes, you're in the alliance, but you're not in the alliance because of me. You're in the alliance because of Sophie. Like, I'm connected to you through Sophie. And for me, it's like I think Nick said it before with Joe, like, if you're not in my alliance, you're in someone else's. So for me, Malcolm, I just always felt that he had other better options than me, which is why I like gravitated to like a Michael, who I knew for a fact I would be his number 1. and it's the reason as well why I was looking for another option apart from Nick and Sophie, because it's like, yes, we're 3, but within that 3, is there are 2, like, and who's the 2? And I don't want to get involved. Yeah, I felt good with Sophie, but I was like, eventually she was closest to Nick. So if I didn't have Michael as my actual, Michael, I said it in the reunion, but obviously you didn't watch, so I'll say it again.
No, I don't like to spoil myself, because otherwise I'm like, you said this in the reunion. Like, I've got my own questions.
Yeah, no, I think a perfect ally has 3 things, and I think Michael had 2 of those things. First is that you trust them absolutely. You can trust them with your neurosis and with all your plans, or your backstabbing, or your mistakes. You can trust them, and I think Michael was that. Number 2 is that you have more options than they do. Like, you are their best option, and I think for Michael, he did try to like go behind my back and play with Nick, but then Nick would just come back and tell me about it. So in a sense, I had Michael kind of cornered. Like, he had no option but to work with me. And we had a good report, but he was like, I was his best option.
I think that's a really interesting way of saying it, because in the pre-merge, it seemed like that. And then by the merge, I think he just accepted that you were number ones. Like, it was sort of forced into it in the pre-merge and then just went with it in the merge.
I think we were definitely, there was no like hierarchy. Like, we both made decisions, and it was a lot of give and take. Like, if you vote Malcolm, I'll go with you next time, like that kind of vibe. But then the third thing that I don't think Michael had, that you want in an ally, is that you can beat them at the end.
You think you would have lost to Michael?
I think everybody. I think this very specific circumstance when Michael doesn't win the game, in my mind, even though I wanted Nick out first, Michael in my mind was always going to be voted out at 4 if I had anything to say. Because Michael for me was like, that person who wins the game. There's Nick, who's really visible, but Michael is a second, Adam Klein guy who's going to like get to the end and win. So Michael, I think the only way Michael doesn't win the game is if he goes to the end with both me and Nick. And I think in that circumstance, I think Nick wins, but I think Michael, in my mind, obviously we don't know what, say, Haley could have done, but with the merge the way it was, I think Michael beats everyone.
It could be like if it's that 3, if it's 3 of you, it can end up being like a 3-2-2 or something if you and Michael split votes. Like, that could happen.
And I'm not even sure I get a vote, to be honest. Maybe John's, but
John's voting for you no matter what.
John won.
John's voting for you no matter what. You could have had the worst game in the world, and I think John might have even voted for you.
I think so.
I want to touch back on the pre-merge and Malcolm and one episode where you, of course, warned him or wished for him to drown in the Mexican wave. I was dead when you said that. I wrote you a message about that one. That was hilarious. It won Best Episode title on the awards, as it surely should have. It was fantastic. Had you planned that, or was that on the spot?
That one was on the spot. I'm really proud. It was Ben Kenyon doing that interview with me, who is very funny. And I was just honestly on like a really good riff. And I came into the game really wanted to like highlight the fact that I am Mexican and I am Latin American. And, I spoke about it in Melbourne, but I really wanted to like have fun with it. Even play into the stereotype a little bit. And I did think like, it just came to me maybe before the confessional. I was like, this is such a good, I'm like, next time I want to say something about anyone, I'm just going to say it. And I did say it. And I thought it was a good one-liner, I think.
It was a fantastic one-liner. And in fact, so many of your confessionals this season were really excellent, which made it so enjoyable to watch your game in terms of your strategy and what you're looking to do, because they were always so entertaining. And to be honest, that was a side of you that I haven't seen before. So I was really was quite blown away with it. There may be Melbourne confessionals coming up that are like that, but that just wasn't a side you gave in the visible game. And then, of course, you amazingly led the charge on Melbourne Survivor for the Uncharted Waters that I was a big part of putting together, but you led the charge. And because you were leading the charge and you did such an amazing job of it, you weren't really having fun that you were just like making sure it happened and it was amazing, right? So it's hard to be having fun when you're making sure everything is actually working in a very complex project like that. So I'd never seen that really fun side of you, and I adored it. It was fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. I think, yeah, and I do think I made a conscious effort to not be so shy. I've never been comfortable in front of a camera, which is why I'm an editor, not an actress. And
that's the thing, right? Directors, editors, they don't like to be, in front of the camera.
Yeah, being an editor, I understand what works, and having edited, now a little bit of Survivor, fan-made Survivor, I understand what's going to make it and what's not going to make it. You can't just narrate and explain, this is what's happening, and this, we ate some croissants and they were delicious. Nah, you gotta for me, look, I was I'm into pop culture. I know a lot about movies and a lot about TV shows, so that's what I'm gonna lean on. I'm that's why I was Bruce Lee is one of my favorite movie actors of all time. So I was I know the Bruce Lee stuff. I used to sail, so I had that poem about sailing. I had that metaphor. And and the more you do them as well, the easier they come. So I think if anyone wants to go to an LRG, just be yourself, but also really don't be scared of the camera. The camera people are not going to go behind your back and tell everybody what you're saying. I think some people are really scared that what they're saying is going to go out. They play the game in their confessionals, and you really shouldn't. You should just, let it rip. Yeah,
absolutely. If people do feel that way, you should. If you can't trust the people behind the camera to keep your secrets from the other players, then you shouldn't even be bothering playing that game, because it's going to be a huge part. Now, before I jump into the merge, JP had a question. He said, was there any alliances you didn't see that surprised you? I guess watching the show back, probably more on, I guess, pre-merge or post-merge, were there alliances that you weren't aware of that you're oh, that was a thing when you watched it?
Well, obviously we didn't see anything on Winyu. I would say from the Kubarang, the purple side, even though it became apparent at the end, I did think I thought Michael and Banfield were closer than they actually were. But I know now from Michael that it was Nick and I were his closest allies. And I remember when I sensed that the tide was turning against Banfield, I really wanted to protect Michael against it. So I remember going to Michael and just really sheepishly asking him, would it be okay? Do you think it's okay if we vote Banfield out? And Michael was like, I don't care. I don't know why people think. But now looking back on it now, it surprised me how much Michael was not with Banfield.
But even when we watched the show, Annabelle had them pegged when she was doing all the grouping. Yeah. She thought they were a pair. And we got the same reaction when you went to him and said, can we vote out Banfield? He's like, yeah, well, I want to give a shit about that. What?
It was surprising. Honestly, the thing that surprised me the most was the whole game, I thought nobody really had clocked me until maybe Anna towards the end. She was kind of pitching me as a threat. But then seeing Grace and Banfield on episode 1 say that, oh my God, Mark's playing a bit, just overplaying. Luckily for me, there were the people at the bottom of the tribe and they had no sway. But I was very shocked and actually really impressed, especially with Grace. Her read was spot on. And she was spot on in saying that we should vote out Nick because he was going to be a threat. So I think Grace was right. But I was
unfortunately, Grace disappeared for half an hour as soon as you got there and all the bonds were built, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. But I was surprised. So, obviously, I loved watching everything that was going on at Winyu, at the Orange Tribe, because obviously we don't get to watch any of that. And for me, I wasn't surprised because I already knew that John was such a talented player. But seeing how he was in the middle of, seeing Winyu after Winyu go out saying, John was my closest, John was my closest. And it really surprised me because Anna and Mel kept telling us how much they were not on the same page at the merge. Yeah. And everybody thought they were just trying to downplay their alliance. But then seeing them actually go after each other, especially Anna just being random and voting for Mel the first time, I was I loved Anna. She's my favorite person on that tribe.
Oh, harsh to John there, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
John is my friend, but like as in a character, it's hard
Yes.
to pick between. Like honestly, Simon and Anna were just like such great characters. Yeah.
There was a lot of good characters over the whole season. It was really well
Yeah,
cast.
I think so.
The
Yeah.
You go into the merge, and I feel like you really hit your straps at the merge. Like
Mm.
you pulled in Michael close. You rolled in the Sophie and Nick alliance as well. You put them together. Joe's still there with you. No problems there. Then John's, of course, who you have a pre-existing relationship with. You start locking into that. And did people know that you had an existing relationship? Did they reveal those at the start of the?
No, the only person that so I thought I was like, oh my god, we're the only people who know each other. Little did I know that James knew like half the cast.
Yeah, and of course Nick and Haley had this connection. Yeah, there's lots of it. Yeah.
And I knew James knew that I played Melbourne, so I was horrified about that. And then at one point, someone did ask, "Has anyone ever played one of these?" And I did say like, "Oh yeah, I played Melbourne." And the only person who like heard me or like cared enough to ask was Joe.
Okay, good.
Joe was the only one who kind of like knew. I don't think no one knew that John and I knew each other. I don't think.
Okay, so anyway, well then you got John as well. So you must have felt like I have an abundance of opportunity here to make it quite a distance in this merge.
I did, but also I didn't. I like when I went to this sacrifice with Simon, I had the opportunity to meet Connor, who plays Survivor.
Did you watch Connor's season? Do you
know
who Connor is?
He was my season 1 winner pick. So yes, I did. Okay. He was my favorite because he was like the avatar for 21-year-old me or whatever how old I was.
Yeah.
So he was my favorite. Him and Nick Danza were like my favorite players that season.
Well, Nick was great on that season. Love Nick on that
season. Yeah.
Connor
so I loved Connor. He was my my winner pick, and I did tell him that. But he, his advice to me was like, just pick a side, stop playing like the middle, like, and I honestly, I feel like I tried so hard to pick a side, but I don't
think you did it though. You didn't follow that advice.
I tried, at the merge, I was like, this is it. This is when I turn on like Sophie and well, not Sophie. Sophie was always in my plans, but this is when I turned on Nick and Malcolm. And so I remember I went up to John and my plan was like, my numbers, me, Michael, John, and his numbers. Let's make something happen. Mm. So I go up to John and I'm like, okay, I got Michael. Joe is on board. Let's go. Like, who do you got? And John's like, I hate everyone in my tribe. I have no one. I hate them. Bye. Like, it was pretty funny. So,
hey, look, Greg is here. Greg says you should be giving Connor advice. Greg's been enjoying the season, I assume. Yeah, we should. Like, because what does Connor want? And then you wore into the advantage getting tribal, and were you one of the 3 people that didn't have a protection? Were you at all concerned, or did you think, look, John's just going to get the boot here?
I thought John was getting the boot. For me, I didn't even realize that it was only 3 of us eligible till later when I'm. You saw the maths challenge. Maths is not my strong suit. Like at the first Mel vote with Mel and Sam going home, I would have been like, what? Like I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I knew as soon as James won the immunity that John would be in trouble because he was the only orange who was didn't have an idol or an immunity necklace. So I did think like, okay, this is when I need to find a purple to throw under the bus, and everything was like the table was set for Malcolm.
Malcolm.
Yeah, Michael was always gonna play his advantage. So when people kept telling me like, "Are you gonna vote for Mel?" I kept being like, "Why would I vote for Mel, who has a super idol? Like, why?" In my mind, I know it's very honorable, and I think there's, I thank the people who threw votes on Mel to flush her idol.
Yeah.
But for me, I wanna vote for someone who I know is gonna go home. So this is my flaw because I thought nobody was voting for Mel. I was like, surely nobody wants to throw out their vote on a super idol.
On a vote as tricky as that one. I was
like, nobody's voting for Anna who's an idol. Nobody's voting for Michael. For me, it was like as soon as John got up and started targeting Nick, I got really excited. I even like started nudging Joe, like, "Come on, let's do it."
Let's do this. Okay, yeah.
But of course, I didn't know that Nick. It was the only advantage I didn't know about was Nick's. Nobody knew about it. He's laughing in the corner. Yeah. So as soon as Nick pulled out his thing,
That sounded really bad, by the way.
I was like, that's it for John. Like, who else am I gonna vote for? Like, I can't vote for Malcolm. He's gone.
Yeah.
And Joe honestly was like, at that point, Joe was like my person I was gonna take all the way to the end. So
well, let's jump to the Joe vote.
Yeah.
She was obviously quite emotionally affected by the vote. She didn't vote for you at the end. I felt that was you voted me out, but you didn't vote her out, right? But she still didn't vote for you, right? You voted with her on that.
Yeah, I think so. From what I've, now that because John was the mayor of Ponderosa, so he knows all the gossip.
He knows all. Yeah.
So because it was a double tribal, and I stole Anna's vote, and then Joe thought I had actually stolen Anna's votes and thrown 2 votes on her. The 2 votes that came from Nick and Sophie. She thought that was me.
Oh.
And I was so desperate at final tribal council trying to explain to her, but at that point she didn't want to hear it. In her mind, I had voted her out.
That's pretty informative, to be honest. We didn't get to interview Joe. She's one of the 2 people we didn't get to interview, and that is very informative because that makes a lot of sense why she was so upset if that's what she thought had happened in terms of the vote, that you, who she trusted, had not only voted for her, but, snaked up another vote and given her 2. Like, that would hurt some people quite a lot.
Yeah. I really wanted to clarify that, not only for Joe, but honestly, I wanted to people, because for me, it was a really exciting move at Final 8. Not only like stealing Anna's vote, and like when I stole, because I knew Mel was with us locked in. I was very confident that Mel would vote for. So I was sitting behind, me and Michael are sitting behind Nick and Malcolm, and I'm doing the maths, and that I was like, I've got you. There's literally no way this is not going the way. And I was feeling really nervous, and I don't know. For me, it was a really exciting Survivor move, like saying like, oh my God, in a tribe of 8 people, 3 people were me and 2 others voted Malcolm out. It took 3 people to vote someone out in a tribe of 8. So that's pretty. For me, I was like buzzing, and then when they threw out, I was like, I just wanted to like go into my confessional straight away.
Like,
and when
they drown that bastard.
Yeah, and then they're like, and the thing with Michael, I was confident that Michael would vote with, even though Michael was like. He was concerned about the women's alliance, even though I explained to Michael, it's not the women's alliance, it's Mar and Michael picking up all these stragglers. Like that was the alliance that I was seeing. All these people who are looking for like a home, we're like that home, And then
Joe's asked, Soph's asked though on this, you did vote for Joe. I didn't think you did.
No, I did. So what I did, so Joe was a unanimous vote because he was so why I voted for Joe was because Michael said, okay, I will vote for Malcolm at 8, but he said, can we do what I want next round? Like, promise me we'll go my way next round. And I said yes. So when they were like, who are you gonna vote out first? I look at Michael and he says Joe, and I looked at him like come on, like Joe like is with us. But at that point, I hadn't realized Sophie hadn't voted with us. For me, Sophie was always endgame as well. I had a really good relationship with her. At that point, I was like Sophie, like, and me, like forever. And honestly, when I was like, I look at Michael, he's saying Joe. Obviously, Nick and Sophie are Joe. And then I look at Mel and Anna, and they're saying Joe.
Yeah.
Like, I literally, and for me, I think my mistake was not that Joe got voted out. There was nothing I could have done there. My mistake, and this is something that this is something like only like Kim Spradlin could have done, is, I wish I could have remembered back to the Grace vote the day before and how Joe had been very adamant about not letting her go unanimously. But that when you're like in the middle of the panic and it's like go and you have 50 people whispering in your ear, it's really hard for me to be like, yeah, Jo is going, but if I want to be nice to her, I should like, yeah. So it was a mistake letting Jo go. Like, I honestly don't think there's anything like maybe targeted Sophie, but Sophie was in my plan. So it was a mistake getting rid of Jo, but I honestly don't think what else I could have done to like.
I guess your options where you could tell her, and because the thing is, I get what your point, and I think it would have been a really nice callback to what she did on Grace's vote, and she said she did the same thing on Banfield, I thought, but I'm not sure about that.
Well, she let Michael. So Malcolm had to vote publicly, and Jo was like, "Oh, vote for me." So Banfield doesn't go unanimously. Yeah.
So she was very focused on that, and I think I guess to me the best thing you could have done is said, "Look, I can't get the votes of you. Everyone's voting for you."
I couldn't even talk to her. It was like a look. Like I couldn't even talk to her.
But if you did vote for someone else, even a throwaway vote on like a Mel or something, right? People are just going to get up at you for like jury management. Like they'll be like, "Oh, look at you, that's like not voting for her, so she'll vote for you on the jury." Like people, and then you're just putting a bigger target on yourself. People hate that jury management stuff.
Yeah, but more than that, I wanted to work with Mel on the next vote.
Yeah, so you couldn't just.
So I wanted to. Honestly, for me, it was like I was looking at Mel and Anna as my new like path to the end. Like I really thought Mel and Anna were like my new. As soon as I realized that Sophie was just not gonna stray away from Nick, I was like, well, Mel and Anna is the way I need to go.
Yeah, no, I see it absolutely. It's just, and we're discussing this. I don't think it was an unoptimal game move to vote for Jo and for you to go along with the majority. You had other options. You had other end game plans. We're just viewing this in the prism of she actually got quite upset about it, and no one wants to really make people upset.
No. And for me, yeah, look, at Tribal Council, it was really hard for me because I kept seeing Jo and time again coming really upset, and I obviously couldn't address her before. And even at that point, I honestly wasn't even like pandering for her vote. I was so horrified that she thought I had betrayed her like that. Like, even on a human level, I wanted to know because, like on the night before, she told me something like, I think outside this game, you and I would be good friends. And that meant a lot to me. And the fact that she thought, more, I didn't care she voted for me at that point. I was like, I just want to be sure we are gonna, like, I wanted to tell her, like, we're gonna be fine. Like, with time, I want you to know that we're gonna be fine.
I think the biggest struggle for people like her who aren't as familiar with the game, and we've said this on the pod before, is that the relationships you make are real, but the betrayals are not. The betrayals are the game. It doesn't mean those connections you formed and those genuine connections and what you felt about people were wrong, or that you were incorrect to read that way. But I think that's a really hard thing to separate when you haven't watched 40 seasons of this show.
Yeah. No, 100%. You can expect, and I did like what Annabelle was saying before about the ethics of casting people like that on an LRG, because I think we now haven't been involved in the production of one and having been involved in casting and seeing it play out. I do think there's people who just not made to play Survivor, and there's a reason the real show has psychologists. In our season, I think there was one or two people who I think were just not emotionally equipped to handle the game. Like, and this is, John always says, like in Survivor, you need to take the game seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. So you get voted out, your self-esteem and your sense of self-worth is completely separate from the betrayals, the result, the lies. Yeah.
And I think we're all absolutely right about that. I think what happens though, and it may have happened in Canberra, it happens in pretty much every LRG. It can be a real challenge to find women. You get like a bazillion men like putting in their applications. And I think there's plenty of reasons why women aren't putting them forward, but I think one of them is safety. Like who's gonna who's randomly putting their hand up to go into the middle of nowhere with a bunch of weirdos?
I wasn't gonna go to Canberra. I knew a lot of people from Melbourne were applying to go to Canberra, and I actually thought at least one. I thought someone like Tash would get cast because she's a woman. She's so like intelligent, and we even made plans to drive together. And I am very thankful that John was gonna crew, because then I felt more. I was gonna go anyway, I think, but I felt really comfortable going there with John to the middle of the bush in Canberra.
But you came to Melbourne. You came to Melbourne knowing no one.
Yeah, but at least I'm in my, my home state. I have my car. Like I'm, I am like and to be honest, I am like a taller woman. I can, maybe fight a little bit more.
I believe you could fight. Didn't you? This is quite interesting, because didn't you apply for Melbourne from an ad? Like you didn't know anyone. You went, yeah. So there you go. One little paid ad that they ran for Melbourne Survivor has brought you here to this community, to the relationship you have. It's amazing how one little thing can change your life like that, right?
You should use it to promote the next season casting.
It could change your life, literally.
You want a boyfriend? Play Survivor, yeah.
There'll be plenty of guys around. We go into the end, and you were very, very good. I'm skipping over some of these boots that weren't that important. One of the thing was not that those people weren't important, but they were running. Anna's vote still, though, talking about it, and your justification to her for it, that she accepted, has to be one of the most unbelievable yet finer moments of your game.
She did not accept it. She was very upset. But my relationship with Anna was the funniest. I love that. For me, Anna came up to me around the James vote as soon as Vantage get in, and she was like, she gave me the whole like, I don't want to listen to the men and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, girl, you're speaking my language. Let's go. For me, Anna was like, I wanted to go to the end with Anna, like, as soon as I met her, because I really liked her, and I
think that would have been a challenging final against Anna.
I think so. I knew from John that the We News were annoyed at her because she was very stubborn, and then I quickly, when she came back to me and she said, like, why did you steal my vote? And I was like, because you weren't gonna vote the way I wanted, like that I wanted the votes to go. And then when we voted Mel out, I didn't vote with her because Michael was really, kind of made the choice to go for Mel, and I wasn't going to go to Rocks at that point. So I changed my vote and I voted Mel out. And then after that, me and Michael come up to Anna, and she's like, how can I trust you? Like, you guys just voted Mel out. And I said, what do you, like, I was literally like, Anna, I told her this, like, what are you going to do? Like, what's the plan here? You're going to go with Nick and Sophie, who have told you to your face that they want to vote you out? Like, you're stuck with me and Michael. Like, sorry.
But also, since when are you besties with Mel, Anna? Like, what do you give a shit? Like,
it was more the fact that I had, because she told me, like, if you told me, I would have voted Mel out. And, but like, at that point, I don't need your vote at the Mel vote. Why risk it in case of an idol?
Yeah.
Or I don't want you. I don't want you to be able to maneuver. And obviously, I didn't tell her this, but. And then, Anna, for me, I was like dying to work with her, but every time someone would get in the way.
Well, that leads into the next vote where Michael goes his own way and decides to vote out Anna instead of stick with you. So he could put his stamp on the game, so he could have a move that was different from your moves. Yeah. How did you feel about that one at the time?
That was the first time I was blindsided. I was like, I had not been surprised the entire game, and then I was really surprised. And immediately I understood what Michael had done it. I understood that it was him and I were playing really identical games. But regardless, I was like, I understand the move. It's the wrong move. Because now, in my eyes, Michael, in that moment, guaranteed Nick the end. Even because I felt like even if I win the challenge, Michael, anyone wins apart from Nick, Sophie's going to force a tie. And we're going to go. And then, I mean, due to his track record, I think Nick could have very possibly won the puzzle or the challenge they would have done at Fire. And Nick, at that point, there was no way Nick wasn't making the end. And I was more angry at that. I was like, well, literally, you just handed Nick the win. Here.
Except that ultimately this got you in the position to vote out Michael, which I think is actually the thing you needed to do, and not vote out Nick.
I think so. It was a lot of luck because at that point I had tunnel vision because I had made my whole brand getting Nick out,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the end and be like, the one thing that I wanted to do, I couldn't do it. Hi guys. At that point, I was like, I'll even go with Michael to the end. And I don't know. I think Michael would have beaten me in the end, but I had tunnel. I honestly was just like, it was more personal. I think at that point, I just want to win a challenge and beat Nick.
Michael, I think, would have been exceptional at Final Tribal. I think all three of you gave really good Final Tribals, but I think Michael probably would have given a better one because he's so like eloquent and verbose, and the way he explains himself is very clear, but he does it with a bit of cheek and like there's a fun in it. Like I feel like he would be a very formidable threat at a Final Tribal.
Michael is one of those people that you put him in any season and he's one of the candidates to win. I mean, I'm not sure he's going to play again, but yeah.
Now, going on your challenges, though, you said you just wanted to win one. You were so close on so many.
My biggest regret is like not beating Anna at the gross eating challenge. I actually think I could have beaten her, but the final round, Michael and I turned to her. We asked like, "Do you need this?" And she was like, "Yeah, I really need it." And honestly, I was like, "I'm gonna see if she can eat the egg," and then she couldn't, so I started eating mine, and then the one with the bottles. By the way, for the record, I want the record to show that I am not mad that Sophie helped Nick. For me, the challenges are designed to be broken. Dan and Liv never said you couldn't spit into someone's bottle. If someone doesn't say that to me, that's why my proudest I think above winning, my proudest achievement was hacking the bottle challenge. I was the one who I was thinking, I need to make a funnel.
You did the plate?
Yeah, I was like, what's a funnel that I always have on me? My mouth.
Yeah.
So but not only that, I at the top of the hill, I fill my plate, but I also take a big gulp of water.
Extra,
and on the way down, actually, Michael is trying to strategize with me, and I'm like, no. When I get to the bottom of the hill, Keegan, who was running the challenges, and who also was there in Melbourne, he yells at me, Mar, you're not allowed to bring the water. You can only bring it down on the plate. And and honestly, in my mind, I'm like, you never said that. You said get the water from the hill down here. And I was really angry, so I spat the water at him. and then I was like, okay. And then I drank the water at the bottom, and everybody was like, it's dirty water. And I was like, it's okay. Well, I was born
spitting it out. I'm not swallowing it.
I had worse water than this. Don't worry. Yeah. So that was my proudest achievement, because then I was like probably in like second last place after Anna. Yeah. And then I just went and yeah. So I wasn't mad that and a little other Easter egg that you will appreciate for reasons that we won't spoil. The puzzle that we had to complete after the bottles was not the puzzle you saw.
Oh, okay.
The backup puzzle. The puzzle we saw, it was the one with like 4 cubes.
Yep.
Stacked on top of each other, and you have to have different colors.
Yes.
And as soon as I saw that puzzle, I looked at Keegan, who was there, and I just rolled my eyes at him, like, what the hell? What did I do to you?
And why did they change it?
Because it took us like 45 minutes, and we couldn't get it. So no, neither Nick or I could get it, and the crew was like, "Oh my god, it's getting really late," and they swapped. And Nick had told us he'd practice puzzles at home. So as soon as I saw the new, but not the cube one. But as soon as I saw the other one, I was like, even though I had like, I don't know, like a 30-second start, I was like, Nick has done this puzzle,
Stay on when the show ends, and I'll tell you how to solve the puzzle, so you know how to do it.
Yeah. I know how you. I mean, I don't want to spoil. I know how you solve it, and I did use your technique. And puzzles is not my thing. Michael and I were so mad at the challenges because we were like, we just won one challenge because we did so well in the pre-merge. Michael and I were like, honestly, the guns of Kubernetes.
Yeah, you were.
We were like, all we want is one challenge. All you do is run and not think. Like, no, none of these, like, remember the history or, like, do some maths and then do a puzzle. Like, no. We just wanted, like, run as fast as you can and hold the thing, or we just wanted, like, a joke challenge, and we got really nerdy challenges at the end. And, I mean, credit to Nick. He's good at all sorts of challenges, which is really...
I do wonder if you... He practiced. He was, he took himself out of the coffee. He was running in the rain. I wonder if he's doing puzzles in the rain. He was very all rounder. I'm not surprised that you weren't getting a bit hot for him, because I was getting hot for him watching you on the show.
I wasn't.
We go into the final travel council when you're confident. According to confessionals, you're confident. You say Nick doesn't know what the hell I'm going to give him. I can win this.
Yeah.
What votes did you think you were getting?
Well, I kind of like, just to say about the confidence, that was a conscious effort to like pump myself up, because the confessionals beforehand, honestly, ever since around the final 6, around Mel going home, I was really down, because I was like, I'm the GOAT of the season, and nobody has said my name. Nobody has voted for me. Everybody wants to take me to the end. I've seen Survivor enough to be like, that kind of sounds like someone who's a GOAT. Like, or
you weren't thinking, I'm La Madrina, I am the godmother,
No.
I am just dominating these people.
Well, it's hard when you're losing all these challenges, and like it's really hard. Because you don't want to be like, going to the challenge and then look back into the season and be like, I was delusional. I was the GOAT. So you got to have a little bit of like that. There's this thing called humility. See, I don't know if you've heard of it. Like, yeah. Anyway, no, but towards the end, thanks, Nick. Towards the end, I was like, no, you know what? I've seen winners like JT or, like win without getting their votes written down. So I was like, I think the reason people didn't vote for me is more because I was always an option, because they knew if they threw out my name, I would hear about it immediately. So I started saying these things to myself, more to the yes to the camera, but more to myself, to really start like thinking of like, how am I gonna go to the jury, and they're gonna be like, your one thing that you wanted to do was get rid of Nick, and he's here. So like, what the hell? So
did anyone raise that? Because I think, to me, I wouldn't have cared about that if I was.
No, I don't think so. And I think I really made a point to emphasize about like, I did everything in my power. The challenges, who wins the challenge, is really not in my control. I'm sorry that, if you think that survivors are running and stuff, and I knew Nick was not like just a challenge threat. He was a very social.
But you just made him the challenge guy, because
I was really impressed with that. He's just a dumb jock. All he does is run and like puzzles, and I knew the truth. And
dumb jocks aren't really good at puzzles traditionally, but yeah, you were saying the message.
I think the votes I thought I was gonna get, I knew John, but I also knew that John would want to vote for the winner. So I was like, if it's gonna be like a 7-1 vote, I think John should just pile on. Like, I don't need a pity vote. I did think Michael and John were like the 2 votes that I was really confident about.
Yeah,
because I would have voted for either of them.
Yes, and then you picked up
Anna
Mel.
No, not Mel.
You picked up Anna, and then you got Malcolm, which we talked about earlier, which was probably a bit of a swing. He was probably looking for the game he respected the most as the sort of player.
And I think with Malcolm, I recognized that he was a really big Survivor fan, and I understood that he really got excited about strategy. So I made a point to be like, yeah, I was coming after you, Malcolm, and I had to do so much strategy. I had to like hustle to get you out. It was so hard, and you were my my proudest achievement was getting you out. And I think Malcolm is the kind of player who, like, that's what he wants to hear. He doesn't want to hear that you were my number one and like I was gonna take it to the end. I think he wants to feel like he was a threat, and he was, and that I had to like strategize 3D chess my way, like, to get him out. I
thought your jury working with that's exactly what you need to do to get those votes. I've never really thought about it too much until this community, because before then I sort of just watched Survivor, but having played orgs and things like that and talked with other people, it's less about you and more about the jury and making them feel relevant to your story. And that's look, someone told me all of that. It was I'm not going to say who, but they told me all of that Oh, look, I'll say the person who won Melbourne Survivor, I had a conversation with, and I'm spoiling that I didn't win because as if anyone thinks I win it. And then they go like, well, maybe I talk to myself. I do. I am very confident in myself. They were telling me about this jury management and their approach to the jury and about making people feel like they matter to the story that you're telling. And I think you did a magnificent job of that.
You have to. Yeah, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, obviously, about Survivor and like past players. And I think it's like not only like you have to make them part of the story, but you have to validate the role they think they played. So for James, like he was really keen to be like, you know, I was the only one who could have beaten Nick. So of course his question was about the challenges, and of course my answer was like, yes, James, like it was such a mistake to throw you out because you would have been the only one. Because that's what James wanted. What Malcolm wanted, he didn't want to feel like he never had a shot. Like he wasn't part of the core alliance. I was like, yeah, you were in the core alliance, and I had to really maneuver to get you out. And I think it's really tough because you say something and that might piss, you know, like it's nice for one jury and then pisses another one. You know, like for me, it was like I was really upset when I had to vote Michael out. I was really upset. I was gonna vote him out anyway, but I was like, he's my friend and I really like him. I'm voting him out, but also I'm about to go to the end against Nick, and I'm gonna probably lose. I'm gonna be a losing finalist, and I was really upset about that. And Mel read that as like I was like faking tears for the jury, and I didn't know this. But so you never know what the jury's gonna think. Honestly, jury management is like so bizarre. I honestly do think the jury in the end, unless Malcolm, I think it's an exception, but I do think people just vote for whoever they like the most or who hurt them the least in like Joe's case, for example. Yeah.
So I think if you got there, you know, with the like, and this is a huge compliment. If you got there, I understand when Nick got the votes he got, and he was always going to get them. If you, or at least some of them, but I think that if you got to the end with, you know, maybe a Sophie and a Joe, like you were sort of thinking, or an Anna, you probably could have won a perfect game. That's how good your game was, because you never had a vote against you. And then the perfect game, of course, is getting all 7 votes at the end. Like, I think your game was so good that you could have done that.
I think it was very apparent, honestly, around the time that James left. I was like, the only 2 people that I'm concerned about really at the end is Michael and Nick.
Yeah.
And honestly, with Michael, I was kind of pissed a little bit, which is why I was also trying to communicate with Sophie why we couldn't stick with Nick. When you're an alliance of male and female, more often than not, the male, the perception is that the male is the more sneaky player, the more strategically minded player. For me, Michael, I think, would have beaten me at the end. And even though you saw that we played along each other, I do think he would have beaten me because the perception was that Michael was the sneaky one. I was just like a bit quirky, or like a little bit like floozy, like I don't know, like, and then Michael was like the really, like, everybody kept calling him devious and strategy and super intelligent. People just saying like, oh, Mark's like nice, and you know.
Just so you know, Sophie, maybe I did win. I'm just keeping it fresh. I'm keeping it organic.
Actually,
I might have won.
I didn't want to say, I won actually.
Yeah, maybe Ma won. Maybe Ma went back to back. Any of us could have won. There's so much information out there, so many spoilers over the years that it's best that everyone just talks about.
Well, this is why it's bizarre seeing like Canberra come out before Melbourne, because now I'm looking back at Melbourne and I'm like, people are gonna think this is really weird. Like, what happened to you? Like, you went backwards. Yeah.
A little fun fact that ties in Canberra and Melbourne to finish this off. When I was speaking to Banfield, like around the time of his interview, he mentioned that he was a little bit spoiled on Melbourne Survivor because he knew the first boot. And I said, oh, you know Scott. I was surprised that he said the Banfield and Scott were friends. That didn't seem like a likely connection to me. And I said, who's your friend? Who do you know is the first boot? And he said, my friend is Dale. Dale is the first boot. So Dale has been wandering around telling people he was the first boot, which we now know is not true. And then keeping that like lie out there for 2 years, even though it's not obviously makes him look less than impressive. So it was a really interesting connection. So people don't know anything about Melbourne. We just like to throw out random things so people can
go watch it now. Like now, if you want more LRG, Melbourne's a really good season, really good cast. If you want to see more of me and Johnny,
and me,
on CK, he's there as well. Well, we call him Chris. We call him Chris in Melbourne.
No, they've changed it to CK on the intro now. Liz is giving me some actual real respect. JP wins. Someone gets medevaced and he gets parachuted in at the final 5 and just takes it out from there. It's like an Edge of Extinction style thing. I just want to say how good this was. I wanted to do a deep dive, and this was super deep. We got to run through your whole game, and it was worth doing because it was such a magnificent game. You got my running commentary the whole time. I couldn't believe how good you were. This is definitely the best winning game of an LRG in Australia. I've watched outside Australia that I've seen. It was dominant. It was amazing. You are the queen now of the Australian LRGs. You are the Sandra. And La Madrina, the godmother herself. I think it was so brilliant. And I just thoroughly enjoyed everything you did. And it was so great watching you just absolutely flourish on this season from start to finish. So I'm sure you're very proud of yourself, and you very, very much should be.
I am, and I hope it also shows other women who might be wanted to apply that it's okay to apply. We do struggle to find women, and women who not there against their will. I feel like Sam was a little bit.
Yeah. She had a 21st to go to that night. So
I feel like if you're a fan of Survivor and you want to play, we're definitely going to use the women in Canberra as an example of who should be applying.
Because it wasn't just you. There were a lot of fantastic women. On this season.
I think so.
Women, great players, and characters.
To find them in the end, I think even Melbourne has, I think, the best female cast of any LRG that I'm aware of.
Melbourne Playing with Fire.
Melbourne season 3, I think it's top tier female.
I also agree. Our whole cast is one of the best casts you'll see on any.
LRG. It is, but especially the women. I mean, there's 3 white guys in my tribe, so whatever. I'm kidding. I love you.
Yeah. Look, and 2 of them are reasonably boring, but I was there to pump it up.
Yeah. True.
Sorry.
It was really fun, and honestly, thank you. Well, thanks to Dan, thanks to Liv. I've said it to them, and everyone, Milo from the other podcast, but also you, CK, doing all these, even if it's just the people in the season, it's a really good way to it's very cathartic speaking about the game, and hearing what other people were thinking is super interesting to me. I love listening to Survivor podcasts. I listen to them forever, and I listen to every single one of yours with Annabelle and CK, Annabelle and Max. They were great, and I hope you guys keep doing it.
I'm gonna keep doing it because, surprise, I said this last week for anyone that's listening, but in a week's time, Ma and I will be back, and we will be breaking down the first 4 episodes of Brisbane Survivor. So tune in around this time next week, and we're going to go down the 4. Look, they've got their own show. I didn't feel the need to do a whole thing every week, plus I'm going to be doing this. But I've been super impressed with it so far. I don't know if you've got a chance to watch any of it yet.
I started watching it, and I really had to pause and see, there's only 10 people? Okay.
Yeah. It's a bit of a short season. So that's why I'm do one now, and then we'll do maybe one at the end or something.
Okay, perfect. I love that.
Yeah. But I'm, as a first season goes, I'm comparing it to first season. So first season Melbourne, which is 30 minutes is available. First season Backyard, first season Canberra, that's what it should be compared against, not against everyone's second or third efforts. And I think it's very, very good in that regard. I'm very impressed. So I look forward to talking about it with you. No one can get enough Ma. We've just watched her for weeks. And then we're watching her enough. She's going to be here, but you can't get enough of her. I can't wait to see your takes on it, especially as not just as a player, but as an editor and an organizer, and you're all 3. So it's going to be really valuable input on the quality of what it's doing. There's some comments here. Sophie saying, thank you for the pod this season. Thank you very much, Sophie. You were here, like Ma said. She was every single week as well. Bring Nick back.
Yeah, just to say goodbye.
Yo.
Just to say
goodbye. Nick was rarely on this pod. Did you listen to it later, or are you not a fan?
He would
I
listen to
didn't
me. He would listen through me.
Yeah, bits and pieces. Honestly, there's just so much stuff, like, you know, with the other
The other
pod
one.
as well, and
Yeah.
busy life. But yeah, no, thank you
Oh,
for
good.
everything you did.
And
Appreciate
then JP, who's dropped in this one, you weren't always around, but maybe you listened to after. Thank you, JP. Thank you for passing me the torch to do this. I think this has been really good. I really appreciated everyone that's come on. Obviously, Annabelle and Max were here for a long time, and they just dropped out at the end here for these interviews. And then Danny came on 1 week, which was great, and now she's taken over the Melbourne one. And all the cast members that made their time and were pretty flexible about coming on and doing it. You were all fantastic. And I do want to thank everyone that came on, everyone that watched, everyone that listened, and of course, Dan and Liv and the whole crew that put together Canberra Survivor to make it such a great season to podcast about. You know, if they're boring, it's sort of hard to do an entertaining podcast. So great season, great cast, great crew, great organization, made for a really fun podcast. And I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you to everyone who's been here and everyone that's listened. We'll see you next week talking about Brisbane. Mara and I will be back, and I can't wait to get Mara's takes on that. See you all soon.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.